It was a bad day to be a road favorite in the MLB on Monday. Does that mean Tuesday might fare a little bit better for those sides? You'll find that out right here on First Pitch and more. Dan Alexander here, and joining me, I got our $2 Tuesday handicapper, seeing it well, Drew Martin joining me, and Eric Pauly of the Gold Sheet for a terrific Tuesday edition here. And guys, I love the games that you have slated to talk about here. We're going to talk Detroit and Kansas City, Oakland, Colorado, the Mets and Cleveland, and Baltimore, St. Louis. So those are the four that are guaranteed. And then we'll get into some questions with the chat here. But Drew, let's get right into it and start off with the total that you're eyeing. It flew over the total in Kansas City yesterday, largely thanks to reliever Joey Wentz. Trotted out of the bullpen, just let five come across, didn't even get one out, and they were like, all right, we'll see you, Joey. Hopefully that won't be the case here for Detroit if you're looking to play an under in this one, and I think, Drew, that's exactly the case that you're going to be making here.
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, getting us off here on an under. Hopefully we don't have the same type of blow up that we had yesterday. I don't think we will. A couple reasons why I like this. I like both of these two starting pitchers. I have them both circled as bet on here. And instead of going on a side with two pitchers that I bet on, I'm going with the under here, Dan. We get Casey Mize, the former first pick overall out of Auburn, War Eagle out there. He's back-to-back 6-inning starts, giving up just 2 hits last time out. So he's given up 1 earned run and 2 earned runs in each of his last 2 starts. He's riding a hot hand. So is Alex March here going for the Royals. He's out of Arizona State. His last 4 starts, just 2 earned runs, and that's on 2 swings of the bat. It's just 2 home runs that have left the park in his last 4 starts. So talk about a hot hand. He's really riding one here. Also kind of a sleeper trend that I'm paying attention to here, Dan, is the Kansas City Royals are on a 17-30 under trend for the season. So, wow. Hey, we get a pitcher's ballpark, 2 bullpens, middle of the road. Again, I hope we don't get the big blow up in the later innings, but I like both of these 2 starting pitchers, and I think the offenses struggle here. So we're going with a pretty hefty total of 9. I think this one finishes, 4-2, 4-3, something in that nature.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear that under streak has been rolling. It means that the defense has to have been pretty good for Kansas City because it's 4 games in a row, 9 of their last 12, and in that little run, 27-12, they've been outscoring their opponents. So it has been a roll as of late here for the Kansas City Bats. Hearing your breakdown there, Drew, almost makes me think towards even looking at a first 5 wager here. And I know we're looking at that key number of 9, but maybe splitting that in half because I'm with you. The starting pitching makes a heck of a lot of sense. And then we could maybe assuage our worries if the bullpen has a similar outing as it did yesterday for the Detroit side. I don't expect that, but hearing you talk, I like the full game under. I like the first 5 under. Hop below in the chat and let us know how you might be looking to bet that, or if you have any first 5 plays of your own. Eric Pauly of the Gold Sheet is with us, and he's got some players to target, some props to maybe play in this Mets and the Cleveland Guardians matchup. So, EP, welcome on in and tell us why this game you wanted to slate right at the top to talk about.
Yeah, so this is a game that's very intriguing. Now, if you've looked on like Ballpark Pal or others, we got some great weather throughout the country for all these MLB games. In Cleveland, we're expected to have a nice game, some winds blowing out, some higher probabilities of some home runs hit. And just looking at both of these starters, Adrian Houser for the Mets, expected ERA, 9th percentile, expected batting average, 13th percentile. Flip the script over to Carlos Carrasco, who was with the Mets last year, 18th percentile expected ERA, 21st percentile expected batting average. These are 2 guys who are expected to allow a ton of runs, and the market agrees. The total sitting 9, juiced to the over. It's a -120 basically across the board there. And I was looking at some of Carlos Carrasco's splits, and I was looking at some potential Mets batters to target, not just for Dinger Tuesday, but even also just on their total baseline if you're not running with that promo. So something that I noticed is Carlos Carrasco now this season, he throws 4 pitches pretty solidly across the board, but he switches up which one he throws predominantly to each side of the plate. Now we're still talking around a 22% clip on all these pitches, so he does just throw these 4 pitches. But when he's going against left-handed batters, his primary pitch is his changeup and then his 4-seam fastball. Looking at the Mets, Brandon Nimmo has the best hard hit rate for any Met, And against changeups, he has a run value of 4, a 388 expected batting average, a 62.5% hard hit rate, a 916 expected slug, and a 546 expected weighted on base average. So Brandon Nimmo, left-hander for the Mets, he destroys changeups, somebody to target. And on the right-hand side for the Mets, Pete Alonso, Carlos Carrasco throws more sinkers to right-handed batters than others. He throws a slider second most to righties, and Alonso does struggle a little bit with sliders. But when it comes to a sinker ball pitcher like Carrasco is to righties, Alonso, 326 expected batting average, 551 expected slug, 403 expected weighted on base. We know the power Alonso has. So 2 hitters for that side I'm looking at are Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo. Then on the flip side, I do like Josh Naylor going against Adrian Hauser. He is absolutely been a beast so far this season. Hauser, not one to strike out people, first percentile in K rate, first in chase, fifth in whip. The Guardians, uncharacteristically, were striking out a lot to start the season, but now against right-handed pitching, they're not striking out a lot. I expect a lot of balls put in play on this one, and I like Josh Naylor to be able to put a ball in the air and into a gap, maybe even over the fence against Hauser in this one. So a lot of steam on Cleveland. This game opened minus 119. Now it's sitting minus 130. There was some buyback a little bit as it got to the minus 135 range, but I would look to Cleveland, and those are 3 batters that I really like in this matchup.
Yeah, love the breakdown there for you prop bettors. There is plenty there, and if you want more, you can check out the Gold Sheet. It gives you information on damn near every game, breaking down player matchups, totals, sides, you name it. Check it out, wt.buzz/GS. Shout out to the folks joining us live here. We got Ferg, Eric D, Brian Bondi, Tawancha Ray over there on YouTube Shorts, Tyler Hobby, Cash Titan CT, and more joining us here on the YouTube desktop stream. We appreciate it. While you're hanging out with us, wherever you are, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and if you haven't already, on X and on Instagram, make sure you hit us with a follow. Drew, we got our best bets that'll be coming up here in a while, but I didn't get to talk about my Phillies yesterday since they were off, and I have to talk about it today because happy Ranger Suarez Day to all who celebrate. It is the ATM that has continued to cash through. So 8-0 as a starter this year is Ranger Suarez. 1.37 ERA, 0.76 WHIP. He's opposing Gray, who isn't a slob by any imagination on the mound. Phil's about a minus 160 favorite. The bank has just been take Ranger Suarez to win. We're still getting it at plus money. It's plus 120. You think that might be a worthy wager, or are you seeing this game a little bit different between the Rangers and the Phillies, who have a little extra rest?
Yeah, I think that is a good way to slice it up, Dan. I mean, I broke down this game last night, and I love Ranger Suarez. I love the Phillies, like we've talked about multiple times. It's either the Phillies or pass for me, pretty much, at least at this point in the season. It's just, I don't like giving the clients, like minus 160, minus 170. So I kind of punted on this one in terms of like me personally betting it, Dan. But yeah, man, if you could slice it up to Ranger Suarez getting the win, I mean, I think that's a great way to go after it, because then you don't have to pay the 60, 70 cents. And then, you're going up against, Gray, who overall is a guy, a top talent guy. That's actually a good way to look at it, Dan. I don't disagree with you in terms of recording the win for Suarez.
Yeah, and EP, as far as this is concerned, I think a couple Tuesdays ago we talked about pitchers that could be bet on, pitchers that could be fading moving forward. And our cohort, Adam Trigger, he was like, this Ranger Suarez thing can't just keep continuing. Yet it is continuing, EP. So again, it's been a bet that you would think, we've seen it as low as like plus 110. It's back up to 120, which I think shows the respect for the side that's coming in here to Philadelphia today. But how do you see this game? Because again, I feel like with an 8-0 streak, it's something that you just ride. If you lose it today, hey, you cashed 8 other times on it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I remember talking about that. I remember saying, like, listen, I like Ranger Suarez, but what I'm more concerned with is the overall aspect of the Texas Rangers lineup against left-handed pitching. Now, obviously, this is going to go more toward your point, because this is a team where last year they absolutely destroyed lefties, and now They're weighted on base, expected weighted on base 302, actual weighted on base 288 against left-handed pitching, which is not good from this lineup that we know has struggled. Only a 121 ISO. This is one of the most powerful lineups, 659 OPS on the season. And the Texas Rangers, teams are purposely stacking left-handed pitching against them because of how poor they've done. I was listening to the broadcast a couple of days ago because I always got to have MLB TV, watch whatever game I want to watch and sweating whatever I'm sweating. And they were talking about how teams are purposely changing their pitching rotations to try to get as many left-handed pitching against Texas because of how poor they've done. So they have 194 plate appearances over the last 14 games against lefties, which is second to actually the Phillies, or first the Phillies, who are second with 193. Mm-hmm. Over the last 14, their numbers get a little bit better. Only a 16% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching, 335 expected weighted on base, 314. Now, it's not something that I bet right away, or I should say bet just yet. But I'm still in a situation where I'm a Texas Ranger believer. Obviously, a little bit of a World Series hangover, and the bats just simply aren't there right now. But you're giving me the Texas Rangers, looking at the odds screen, at a plus 144 price. I know the Phillies have the best record in baseball. I know that they're absolutely rolling. I know they're tough to beat in the bank. With that being said, plus 144 for a team that really is not that far off. I look at the Rangers potentially here. I also look at John Gray under strikeouts, depending on the lineup the Phillies put out. Gray has had some good K games, but he is not as good of a strikeout pitcher against left-handed batters. The Phillies stack him. I kind of like Gray's under, but I'm waiting for some lineups there, but that's on my radar as well.
See, EP isn't afraid to come on here and fade my Phillies. That's why we love having him on. And a quick correction for you. If you want to find the quickest way to get to the gold sheet, it's WT.buzz/TGS. That will get you to the gold sheet. If you want the free guide, you can check that out, WT.buzz/GSL. So there you go. That's the easiest way to find the gold sheet over there. While you're at WagerTalk, make sure you grab the $2 play that my man Drew Martin is rocking with. Just $2, you can find that change in your couch and ride alongside one of the best baseball cappers that's out there. You can check out his Daily Diamond video in the links below the video here in the description. Guys, we got Chris Fisher chiming in. He was glad that we were talking about that Phillies and Rangers game, as it's a pretty good pitching matchup. He wants some thoughts here on Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks, as money line wagers or run line is the question for him in that one. Yesterday, Steve Merrill's best bet on the show, and I gave a ringing endorsement for it, was laying the 1.5 with the Dodgers, even at home. Got a little sweaty there, gentlemen. Not going to lie. I was feeling good early, got a little bit sweaty, but we get it home. But actually, you're seeing a little bit lower of a price now for the Dodgers, partially due to that scare, partially due to the fact that it's Gavin Stone versus Brandon Pfaadt on the mound here this evening. So, Drew, anything stand out for you for that late night D-Gen special? 10-10, the first pitch here in L.A. for you East Coasters. What are you thinking in this one, Drew?
It's not one that I spent too much time on. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of laying the run line at home, but yeah, minus 160-ish. I think it's even a little bit short of that. I'd look towards the Dodgers here. It's not one I bet personally, Dan, but I will say this, the late night D-Gen special, I don't know if we can qualify it as it, with the Dodgers.
Considering it's like marquee now. Yeah.
A lot of people jumping on that, and considering we have the Rockies and the Athletics coming up tonight on the West Coast,
true
late
D-Gen
night.
Special.
Yeah, man. I feel like that checks the box.
Yeah, and that actually will be coming up here in Best Bets. So Drew Martin, a man of the people, he's like, why would I talk about a 10-10 game that actually has some intrigue when I could break down the Rockies and the A's? That's coming in Best Bets here. The great Drew Martin going to be breaking that one down. I'm just wondering for you, EP, any thoughts on that Dodgers game? It was kind of a cross-off for me. I was glad I got my 1.5 home. Got a little bit too sweaty for me. But any thoughts in that one, player prop wise too, before we move on to this Yankees game? The chat thinking it might be a good Yankees bounce back spot. But first, Arizona and Dodgers, thoughts for you, EP?
I got a prop. I have a prop that I bet. Brandon Pfaadt struggling against, shocker. I got a prop for this one. Brandon Pfaadt struggling against left-handed batters. 283 batting average against, 339 weighted on base, 453 expected slug. What I'm actually looking at is Freddie Freeman under half a strikeout at plus 105. You can find this on DraftKings. Wow. Fott, only a 19% K rate against left-handed batters. And then looking at Freddie, Fott in 8 plate appearances against Brandon Fott, only 1 strikeout with a 25% whiff rate. It means he's swinging and missing at 1 of every 4 pitch. Fott lives around the zone. He is one of the best pitchers to actually bet in the under walk market. Now it's probably a little bit juicy. But Arizona's Penn, only a 20% K rate in May, 18 and change on the season. Freeman, 16.9% K rate against righties this season, 14.5% in May, 11.8% last 7 games. You're giving me plus money on Freddie Freeman to not strike out. I think there is a higher probability that he does not strike out tonight. So under half a strikeout, Freddie Freeman on DraftKings plus 105. I tweeted that not too long ago. Wrote it myself not too long ago as well.
Yeah, just like when you tune in on Wager Talk today, Prez probably has a stupid story for every situation. My man Eric Pauly probably has a prop for any situation that you need and any game that you need. You can follow him over at Slime Action on X. Guys, I mean, I was just as shocked as anyone. Not that the Yankees lost last night, but the Yankees lost in the fashion that they did. Talk about a stunner. 4-run rally in the 9th for Seattle, getting the road win. So if ever you want to just bounce back, shake off a loss, this could be a spot. Clark Schmidt on the mound here for the Yankees. Brian Wu opposing him. I'm wondering for you, Drew, what are you thinking about this? Is it as easy as just saying the Yankees, they got robbed last night, it was a tough loss, they shake it off, they get the win, or does that sting a little bit? Does that linger? Could you maybe fade the Yankees in the first 5? They want to shake it off, or is it a buy on sign and they want to get out, get a lead right away? Any thoughts on this game? Because I think because of the fashion it finished in last night, it made this game a hell of a lot more intriguing than just a game 2 in a series.
Absolutely, Dan. And I guess I'm of the camp, I think it could kind of snowball a little bit on the Bronx Bombers.
Agreed.
That was a terrible way to go. And I'm not one to look to fade the Yanks right off the rip. I mean, right now, considering their record, I mean, the Yankees, one of the most profitable teams in baseball. So I look at this game not wanting to go against the Yankees. It's just Wu, the starting pitcher here for the Mariners. I mean, if they're able to kind of carry that momentum into the night, this guy's been great. He's not going deep into games. He got the late start to the season, but when you watch him pitch, Dan, and I learned this the hard way. I faded him his first start of the season just because I think some starting pitchers come out, when they don't get the full spring, things of that nature, they can be a little bit rusty. But man, this guy's right on it. He's got sharp movement on his pitches. So in terms of laying a big price up against him, I like Schmidt. I like this Yankees lineup, but I wouldn't lay a big number against this kid on the hill because he's been really, really good, Dan.
Yeah, and AP, pitchers, I would argue, better than many folks who are giving out some betting analysis here. Drew is another one that I love. I mean, that Daily Diamond video, a wealth of information breaking down these pitchers on the bump. I feel like with Schmidt, last week he had the best start of his career, I think in 46 career starts. And it wasn't like it was, an amazing eye pop out start. 3 career bests, strikeout in 8 innings. So yes, he went deep. He was able to stack it up, but it's not like this guy is really a strike you out type of pitcher, at least as his career has said. Do you see that a little bit different? What do you think about this matchup on the bump? Because I think Drew making a heck of a lot of sense there.
Yeah, so answering the Clark Schmidt question first, last start was literally the furthest he's ever started in his career. Because if you take a look at his splits, first time through the order, great. Second time through the order, great. Third time through the order, absolutely horrendous. A 6.67 FIP, 4.74 expected FIP. And that's just this season. You go to his career, this has been his MO, his third time through the order, 5.52 FIP, 4.86 expected. The strikeouts go down, the hits go up, the whip goes up, the batting average of balls in play go up, the left on base percentage go up. That's just his MO. He is electric. The first 2 times he sees you, third time he gets hit around. He was able to overcome that last game in literally his longest start ever. I'm not sure it's something that I would love to look at because the Yankees bullpen, Clay Holmes, 31 pitches yesterday, so he's obviously out. And guys like Nick Birdie, Caleb Ferguson, Dennis Santana, Luke Weaver's been great for them, but not pitchers that I'm really loving. And the Mariners lineup, though, is so frustrating and it's so hard to really get behind. I 100% agree with Drew. I'm a big Brian Wu guy. And his issue, like many rookie pitchers or young pitchers, since last year he made his debut, is they still struggle against like one side of the plate. And left-handed hitters are hitting so well off Wu they did last year. Obviously, just one start there. But the Yankees don't have a left-handed lineup that's going to kill you. Like, obviously, Juan Soto's in the middle. Then you got like Alex Verdugo, Anthony Rizzo. Like, these aren't lefties that like strike fear in the heart of pitchers. Obviously, Soto does. Strong pass for me, but I would look at potentially Soto's base props. I didn't dive into it fully myself, but Clark Schmidt, not a guy that I'm expecting to all of a sudden be this guy who's going to give you 7 innings every time. His career tells you that was literally an outlier anomaly performance last game.
Yep. Yeah, that's what stood out to me as well. And anecdotally, okay, maybe you want to ride the team who had the big comeback, some wind in their sails. This one was just a big question mark for me. So that's why I love throwing it your guys' way, hearing how you're eyeing that game. We got Eric D in the chat, and this is a guy who cashes some 3-team parlays with regularity in the chat. He's great at making up cute nicknames for him. The parlay that he has for the folks today, and it's 2 games that we already touched upon that we think could get a little bit sweaty for you, and that's Guardians, Philly, and the Padres. He's calling it the 3-team Taco Tuesday parlay. I don't know if they really have great tacos in Cleveland. Haven't been there enough to know, but I know the Padres certainly do, and that's a game we haven't touched upon yet. They're a road favorite, which, as I said at the open, guys, didn't really work out for teams on Monday. Again, that's not something you carry over, just a note to have there. Drew, I'll start with you on this one. Padres in Cincinnati. You think the road chalk justified in this one?
I do, Dan. And yes, I can confirm there are great tacos there in San Diego. Anytime you're that close to the great country of Mexico, yes, you're going to get some good tacos. But yeah, I'm actually on the Padres here, Dan. Gave it out to the clients. Musgrove, his numbers aren't sexy, 6 ERA, 6 FIP, but back-to-back times against Cincinnati, that's the unique handicap in this one. He faced the Reds in his last start just last week. And anytime you go 9 strikeouts, 0 walks, I like that. That's domination against the opposing lineup. And usually I'm a guy back-to-back against the same lineup. It helps the offense. But in this particular case, 9-0 strikeout to walk ratio, I'm looking to bet on him again. Nothing against Andrew Abbott here, the former second rounder out of Virginia. Mm-hmm. The southpaw is good. He changes speeds well. Anytime you watch him, it's just his ERA is 3, his FIP's 4.75. So he's been able to work himself out of runners on base, out of trouble. And it's not to say he can't do it again here. I like this Padres lineup. I think they're able to put up crooked numbers. And we got to bring up the fact the Reds are 3-14 in the month of May, Dan. They are ice cold right now. This lineup can't hit. And spot-wise, it's their first game home off of a 10-game West Coast road trip. I don't like that spot to bet on teams. So overall, I think this number's short on San Diego. I think we get the better lineup, and I think Musgrove actually has a decent start.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a case of, hey, why don't we just keep on fading the Reds? You know what I mean? Like EP, sometimes it seems like it looks too easy. Does this one feel too easy for you? Or is this like, hey, don't overthink it. Don't you twist yourself into a pretzel here. It's almost a discount, you could argue, that you're getting on the Padres if you just think of, recent form, at least in this month for Cincinnati. Any thoughts on this one for you, EP? Or do you have a prop? I know you always have a prop. Any thoughts in this one?
I haven't bet anything yet, but I've obviously looked at the prop market and do have some thoughts. So you just, like, I agree with what Drew's saying. You look at Musgrove's stats last year compared to this year. Like, right now, he's not having a great season to start, but historically, like, he is a very good starting pitcher. But you can't ignore the fact that the Padres played on Sunday Night Baseball and then played a doubleheader yesterday. Like, that can't be ignored. You look at their bullpen, and the only guy who hasn't pitched in the last 2 days is Adrian Morjon. Like, you're going to have Robert Suarez, who's available, good pitcher, only 7 pitches. Yuki Matsui, he's available. That's good. But you're basically banking on the fact that Joe Musgrove is going to pitch deep into this ball game. And his outs line is set at 17.5. He's hit that in 50% of games this season, including last week against the Reds, where he had 18 outs recorded. But I'm just a little shocked that the fact that Musgrove's K prop number is 4.5 minus 120. He literally had 9 strikeouts against this team his last time out. Now, I do agree with Drew that generally speaking, this does benefit the offense. But considering how banged up the Padres bullpen is currently, like 4.5 seems very low. If you expect to get 18 outs, 5 of them being strikeouts against the Cincinnati Reds lineup, that's something that I'm potentially interested in. Now, the Padres offense, not great against lefties, and I do agree. I am an Abbott fan as well. I have not bet anything yet. I think it's something where, like, you think it's too good to be true, but again, you can't ignore, because if Musgrove gets hit early on, like, this is going to be a situation where the Padres have no arms to do anything with the rest of this game. And lastly, too, like, the Reds, they're completely like a falling knife that you don't really want to be catching right now. But it's just a tough one. It's a tough one. I haven't played anything. I'm looking at that K prop more than anything right now. But something that I might not be dying to get in on, considering how exhausted this team must be from, again, that doubleheader and that Sunday Night Baseball game, then flying to Cincinnati.
That's Eric Pauly of the Gold Sheet. Check it out over at WagerTalk.com. Some folks in the chat asking our thoughts here on San Francisco and Pittsburgh. If you want the true thoughts, you got the $2 play over at WT.buzz/DM in that game. So you want the full thoughts on that one, check out our $2 Tuesday handicapper. That's Drew Martin at WagerTalk.com for the analysis on that one. But we do have some best bets coming up. Oakland and Colorado. Drew's going to talk that game. EP is going to talk Baltimore and St. Louis. But right now, Drew, whenever I have you on, we got to talk fish. You're rocking the lid. It looks terrific. There's City Connect, probably the only good City Connect that we saw this year. Milwaukee, Miami, Gasser, Rogers. Home dog here. Home dog barking. You're wearing the lid, Drew. We betting the home dog here?
You know, Dan, I want to. And look, I'm a lifelong Marlins fan, guys. I was here 1993 at the game inaugural. I don't know if I can get there. Trevor Rogers on the hill. And up against this Brewers lineup, I mean, we're giving up a lot, and I don't think we're getting enough back with the $1.25, Dan. So as much as it pains me to say, I left this one off the card. And actually, if you need something, I would probably lay the 45 cents here with the Brew Crew, unfortunately, Dan.
Yeah, and shout out to Lord Farquad in the chat saying, y'all bold betting on your teams. I can't and won't ever. Well, Drew just breaking it down for you. He wants to do it, but the head trumping the heart in that one. And actually, come football season, one of my favorite things is fading the team that I'm rooting for, especially when you're playing against a rival, because either you will profit off of your pain or you'll be like, hey, at least we won. Like that's one of the best trends that I love riding. EP, before we get to some best bets, any thoughts on this Miami and Milwaukee game for you? It was one that again, it's if I'm playing, I'm laying, to quote Teddy Covers in this one. What about you?
I'm just interested to see how Robert Gasser does. You know, number 4 prospect for Milwaukee, only 4 Ks his first start, 2 his last start. But at the AAA level, obviously doesn't always translate. 12.75 K through 9 in 2024. There's a couple of starts there. 11.04 in 26 starts in 2023. So those K numbers have actually risen every single year. And Miami's offense, last 14 games, have one of the worst K rates against left-handed pitching, sitting at a 25.7% K rate. So could this be like the Robert Gasser real, like, welcome to the show moment? It's a lineup there. It could work out against them. So I have nothing official, but I'm interested to see how this young stud Robert Gasser does today in Miami.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that shakes out. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your favorite play is on the card. If you're watching on the rewatch as well, we'd love to see you there in the comment section. Hit that little bell if you haven't already, so you know when we go live with videos like Drew's Daily Diamond that you can hear him break down the card on a daily basis each and every morning. All right, gentlemen, let's talk some best bets because we got some questions rolling in on these games that we want to touch upon. Drew promised you he would talk about the D-Gen late night special. Get your barf bags ready for Cal Quantrill and Aaron Brooks, the A's and the Rockies. Drew, both of these teams were surprising there for a little bit. You were like, hey, are these actually some baseball clubs? And then reality has kind of set in here for both of these sides. So, you're going to make me lay it here with Oakland. That's a tough look. What do you think in this game?
Yeah, Dan, I actually like the Rockies. True degenerate special here. Who doesn't want the Rockies and athletics late night on the West Coast here? Take your nap in the afternoon, get your coffee ready. You're going to want to watch this one in the Coliseum. I'll tell you, Dan, laying the price with the athletics is not something I'm looking to do, and I get it. You know, the Rockies have lost 3 straight. Well, the A's have lost 8 straight, so this is ugly as it gets. But if you remember, the Rockies were on that 7-game win streak, so they've won 7 of their last 10. And really the angle I'm playing here is Quantrill, their starting pitcher, Dan. He's riding a hot hand. They've won each of his last 3 starts, so we're getting him in this rotation. I actually had it circled here. He's only given up 2 earned runs in his last 20 innings pitched. So talk about riding a hot hand. We get it here with the Rockies starter. He's up against Brooks, who admittedly, I don't know a lot about this guy, a former KBO pitcher. He's 34 years old, and he's only had 1 start. I almost get the feel like he's filling a rotation spot. They need somebody to go up there and eat some innings. That's the way I'm handicapping this kid Brooks, because he only had a 4.5 ERA in the minor leagues. So it doesn't really translate well. If you have a 4.5 ERA in the minors, you know, what are you going to have in the major leagues? So, hey, I think Colorado plus price. I think the wrong team's favored here, and it comes back to the spot as well. You know, the A's, this is their first game back off of a 10-day road trip. Don't like betting on teams in this spot. Hey, let's go with the Rockies. Plus price here, plus 115. You can find WagerTalk live odds screen. We're on the rocks in the degenerate special for Tuesday night, Dan.
If you want to take this one a little bit more degen, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a good. So this reminds me a lot of last year when the Cincinnati Reds went for their series at the Oakland Coliseum. If you guys should know at this point, teams play each other now once a year. They alternate where they go. Obviously, this one is in Oakland. And I was like 1 leg off of hitting like a 50-1 parlay just because of how bad these 2 teams are. Like, I can expect this to be somewhat of like a AAA type of game. And I don't have anything concocted yet. I'll tweet out whatever I end up doing. Now, I could see this one being like a 2-0 kind of pitcher's duel, you know, a total of 7.5. Actually, juice to the over, though. But at the same time, this is a scenario where when you have 2 of the worst teams in baseball, yes, I know Oakland had their little fun run, but let's not mince words. Colorado and Oakland are 2 of the worst teams. This is a game where I would look to put like a 2 RBI for like 2 different players, like parlay together and like try to go for the plus money upside. I'll tweet out what I do because this is a D-Gen special where I want to maximize the fact that these are 2 teams that, again, at some points are like AAA level teams. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like a crappy game in terms of lack of run scoring. I think we might see like a fun, like 8-7 type of matchup here. And I want to capitalize on the upside. I know Quantrill does have good numbers against his A's roster, 18 potential plate appearances, so not a big sample, and he's done well this season. But I'm in for the fun here. I'm going full D-Gen special here. I'm expecting this to be a fun game to concoct a same-game parlay with a lot of hitters getting involved in this one.
A sick same-game parlay. Our man Too Legit in the chat says this is the dog of the day, a WTF wrong team favored special. So Too Legit shouting that out. And Ruzen saying this is like being in a club and trying to pick the leftovers on the dance floor at 3 a.m. It's going to be a rocky ride. It's going to be a rocky ride. So Ruzen showing out in the chat. We salute you, brother. EP's got a best bet as well. He's also got some thoughts if you're into those Dinger Tuesday promos at some of those sports books. He's got some players to back as well, and some folks were asking about this game. Baltimore and St. Louis, the battle of the birds, and EP gonna break it all down for you. How do you see this one shaking out, Eric?
So obviously Lance Lynn has been a little bit better this season. You know, you go back to last year, the guy was a home run allowing machine, let up 44 total dingers, 24 of those being to left-handed hitters, batting .290, slugging percentage 549, 639 FIP. And this year, the numbers are relatively similar. They've come down, still allowing a .290. Batting average, only 4 home runs so far. But the one thing that I love about the Orioles now, this is the team that is definitely better when they're at home, but this team leads the MLB in home runs. And this is a situation where the weather looks great in Busch Stadium with winds going out. We've seen with that Red Sox series when the weather is good, the ball absolutely flies in that park. And the Orioles are a team that could stack lefty on lefty on lefty. They have a ton of switch hitters. They have a ton of left-handed bats. So all the way down from Adley Rutschman, Ryan O'Hearn, Anthony Santander, switch hitter, obviously Gunnar Henderson, the absolute animal. I like the Baltimore Orioles to be able to get to Lance Lynn and put up a ton of runs in this one. There's somebody I look at potentially in the market. Now, there is a market. It's only on FanDuel today. Sometimes DraftKings has it too. It is the highest scoring team of the day. I would look at Baltimore potentially in this spot to put up the most runs of any team in baseball. I think they were like 14-1. So that's something that I would look at. And with that being said, clearly I am a fan of the Orioles on the money line. Of course, not a great start last week, but as me, you, and Adam Trigger talked about either last Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago, we're talking about the Orioles rotation. And Dean Kremer was the guy who was like, you can't keep getting away with all these terrible advanced metrics and good starts. Yeah, they were playing against potential NL Cy Young winner Sonny Gray, and then Dean Kremer finally had his situation where he got shelled and this Cardinals lineup woke up. I think that what we've seen from Kyle Bradish, like he's always been the guy who was expected to be like the true now 3 with Grayson Rodriguez and Corbin Burns at the 1 and 2 as O's rotation. I think the Orioles, just the fact that they could build a lineup with literally 4 switch hitters, 3 other lefties, Cedric Mullins, so on and so forth, to be able to get to Lance Lynn. He has had some success against this lineup, so something to consider. But the Orioles, again, can just stack lefties on lefties on lefties. And as we saw a couple of days ago against Luis Castillo and the Mariners, that proved to be a good strategy as they got to him, a guy who struggles against lefties. They're going to do it again to Lynn tonight.
Yeah, the chat being all kinds of shady, guys. Titan CT saying Lynn is at the buffet. I mean, just a random stray thrown at our man, Lance Lynn there. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your favorite plays are. We appreciate you. Shout out G Hurt. Kimberly McGee asking us about that first 5 in the Kansas City game. We talked about that one a little earlier. Drew was breaking down the under for the full game. I was making the case for the under in the first 5 as well. Ghost Baby talking some NBA in the chat. Stick around because the NBA show is coming your way. And last one on the way out, EP. People love these Dinger Tuesday promos that are going on. Tyler's asking if you have any thoughts in Atlanta and Chicago. He's pointing out with the weather that the ballpark has 47% home runs with the weather. So that's some thoughts here for Tyler. Anything you got in Atlanta Cubs, a game that we didn't touch upon yet?
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. The wind is expected to be rolling out in Chicago, so it's a situation where you probably want to bet on some dingers. Charlie Morton so far has been a pretty good ground ball pitcher, but he has allowed a good amount of home runs. Other hand, Javier Assad, somebody who's pitched well, very well, surprisingly, last start, only 4 hits, 7 Ks, only 2 homers allowed. So it's not a situation where I have somebody like absolutely circled. With that being said, with the weather and the ways that the Atlanta Braves bats have finally woken up, Assad, like he has those 2 home runs allowed, and those have come against his both of his cutter. And I know that Matt Olson absolutely loves to rake on cutters, so I would look at like the big heavy hitters here: Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson. And the best part about the Dinger Tuesday is obviously you'd like to cash your bet and get the free bets, but on FanDuel you get free bets back based on how many homers hit in the game. So if you do choose the wrong guy, it's a $25 bet you have to make, but there are 4 home runs in the game. Ends up being like a $5 bet. You get 20 of them back in free bets. So obviously you want to pick the right hitter, but in a situation like this, I think you run your analysis, you look at your splits, and if you have a guy that you love, you ride it, and you just hope that the weather report is correct and you're getting it back regardless of if they hit the home run or if the teams do what they're supposed to do in this kind of weather, especially teams like the Cubs and the Braves who hit the ball in the air a ton. Something you want to look at. Definitely a great game to target for Dinger Tuesday.
Yeah, there's a such thing as a kid in a candy shop, a pig in shit, or there's Eric Pauly on Dinger Tuesday. It's happiness and excitement in its purest form. Check out the premium picks over at wt.buzz/TGS. You want some free breakdowns of games and trends and analysis? wt.buzz/GSL gets you the free guide. And while you're over there, just $2. Shout out to our man Tyler in the chat room. He said, hey, I ponied up. I grabbed that $2 play from Drew Martin, and you should do the same. Highly suggest grabbing that over at WagerTalk.com. That's going to do it for another edition here of First Pitch. On your way out, make sure you throw that like for these info. These guys giving you free client plays, free breakdowns, and answering your questions all along the way. That's worth a like and a subscribe in my book. If you're watching us on social, make sure you hit that follow button. And don't go anywhere. You can click the video on your screen right now. Keep getting all that info you need to cash on all the sports you love. It's what we do here at WagerTalk TV. Best of luck, everyone, and we'll see you next time here on First Pitch.